All right, what's up guys? Ryan from Elevate Security here, and in today's video, I wanted to cover what is hands down the most important exploit that you would need to know to succeed on OSCP, and also in the real world and in engagements and stuff on the job, because this is kind of an inherent feature of one of the most prominent things that you'll see in web development today, and that is file uploading and abusing file uploads to get a shell on the system. Now, in order for this to be done correctly, there's a number of checks they can do, right? Like if they're not expecting, PHP files or, some kind of programming language that you could leverage to get a shell, if they're not expecting those to be uploaded to the system, then they should definitely have a whitelist to only include the expected file types. Although, in many situations, as you can imagine, there would be situations where they would expect those type of files to be uploaded. They would need those to be uploaded, and then, well, it just gets a lot more complicated for them to protect against this exploit. So an extremely important one to know how to take advantage of. And not only that, one of the most lucrative ones to exploit, because if you can exploit a file upload, you'll have a shell on the system. Now, sort of rewinding a little bit to the context of OSCP, this is an extremely useful thing to know how to do. There's a number of boxes that I've certainly come across that you needed to do a file upload exploit on in order to get shells. Hack the box, same way. Like, a lot of CTFs, they like to use this. So when you're looking around on these websites, whether it be OSCP or in the real world, look for the functionality first. Don't just try to throw exploits mindlessly at the box, but try to browse around as a normal user would first, looking for the functionality that the site provides. Now, if you see some sort of file upload functionality, that's certainly where you want to see, like, what kind of, okay, we have file upload, what kind of files does the application accept? And if they don't accept PHP scripts and stuff like that, don't call it there. There's more checks, as I'll show you in this video here in a second. Like, for example, what if you say .jpeg.php, right? And it's a PHP script, and you give it the magic bytes and stuff like that, change the content type, all of that. There's a number of different strategies and tips for spoofing it, the application, making it think that it's a an image file or whatever, an accepted file type, but it's really a PHP script, and the web server treats it as such, and you get code execution. So we're going to be doing that, right now here with, there's a box that I have going on here called Popcorn. It's a hack the box machine. Let's see, 10.10.10.6 is where it's running. I don't know why this thing really annoys me sometimes when it Google searches stuff, because I don't put the protocol. So this is the default page. Now, I'm going to kind of skip ahead about with some of the stuff that doesn't really apply to what we're talking about here. So in this case, this was the default page. When I ran a GoBuster scan on it to brute force the subdirectories, that's where I found this /torrent. And from here, I already created my account, but initially I wasn't able to access the uploads thing here because it prompted me for a login. However, in this case, and here's another thing to keep a lookout for, it allowed me to create an account. It said sign up here, so I just signed up, created my own account, and all the accounts are able to upload torrent files, right? So that's where I started. First, I tried to upload an image file. That's something that I would try as like a first little test, because most applications accept image files as uploads. Now, in the case of this one here, it did not accept that image file because it said it expected a torrent file. So this program is a torrent hoster, so it expects you to upload a torrent file, and then from there, you're good to go. So what I did, I just grabbed a random torrent file from Kali.org, and I had that here. So this is the one I just grabbed from the Kali Linux website, and I uploaded that torrent. And since I already created it, it said it already exists in the database, and it's spelled already incorrectly. So that's that's kind of interesting. That's a little tip off. It may be vulnerable if it's not even grammatically correct, right? But I'll just go here and show you what that looked like. It basically gave me a page saying that it was successful, and I had that request. I threw it to my repeater right here. This was the image file that I attached later because that was the way in, right? So I just uploaded the torrent file to Kali Linux. Now from here, from this point, so what, right? We uploaded a torrent file. It accepts torrent files. How can we actually get a shell off of this? How could we actually leverage this to get a shell? Well, it turns out that part of, whenever you upload a torrent file, there's a place where you can insert an image. By default, there was no image because I didn't add any when I first uploaded it. But I was able to edit that upload and attach an image file. So what I did for that is there was a recent box that I did, Apocalypse. If you check out the video I did on that one, that was the WordPress video that I made. But essentially, I had a torrent file not a torrent file, but an image file from that. I'll show you what it looks like here. It was just this image file that I grabbed. Ended up doing some steganography off it to find a word list, but I digress. It's just a basic image file, right? So that's what I attached, because I want to use the key here is I want to use the application the way it was intended to be used and just collect the requests and responses so I can say, okay, here's what a valid request looks like. Here's what it looks like when everything's running as expected, right? So that way, after I did that, got 200 okay, and it says, please refresh to see the new screenshot. Okay, at this point, everything is going exactly as expected, right? So now that I know what things should look like, I can figure out how I can properly break this thing, right? So the next thing that I tried, and I was pretty confident that this was going to error out, and it did, is that instead of, I edited that torrent upload again, but this time instead of adding another image file, I instead added a malicious PHP script. Now this script is one that I've showed a number of times on this channel, and that is the PHP reverse shell, right? So the one from Pentest Monkey. So basically I just went here and I changed the IP address to be my IP address. And that's the PHP reverse shell script that I uploaded. And now I attempted to, right? But let's just go back here. When I first tried to do that, it told me invalid file, right? Because it's expecting an image file and it found a PHP file, and it's set to not accept PHP files for security purposes, right? So now we have a valid request and we have an invalid request. So now bridging the gap between that, we got to figure out how can I cause the application to think that it's a valid request, but at the same time have the server interpret it as a PHP script. Well, the way I did that was I knew that just kind of understanding Linux, right? I know this is a Linux system that we're attacking, and I know there's something called magic bytes. Let me just illustrate what that is. In Windows, you might be familiar with file extensions, right? Everything has a file extension in Windows. So if you create a file and append a .text to the file name, it's treated as a text file, right? If it's a .docx, it's a Word file. .pdf, it's a PDF file. .jpeg, it's a JPEG image file, etc., right? These extensions actually mean something to a Windows operating system. Now, however, when it comes to Linux file systems, they don't care what the extension is, right? There's no concept of extensions there. That's just part of the name as far as it's concerned. Instead, the way that Linux determines a file type is through something called magic bytes. Now, magic bytes are basically the first however many bytes of a file. That's what it looks at, and based on what info is there, it will automatically interpret that file as being of a certain type, right? So for example here, right, this is a PHP file. If I look at the magic byte, if I use file, the file command utility here, it's going to tell you what file type it is. And the way it does that is it's just looking at the first however many bytes of the file, right? Like we'll just say 20 or something, right? And sees all this PHP. Oh, it's like, oh, okay, it's a PHP file. Now, similarly, this one, this bash script, the recon.sh, that's just a text file, ASCII text. Now, bringing this all full circle here, if we go to home, Kali, downloads, if we run file on an image file, then it should know that it's an image file. Now, oh wait, where was it? Let me go back one actually. It's in Apocalypse. Hack the box Apocalypse. So yeah, if I run file on this image file, okay, it's a JPEG, right? Because when it looks at the first, I don't know, however many characters on there, it'll see something like this, like all this binary, right? And it knows based off this binary that it's a JPEG. So that's what I did here essentially in order to do this. I grabbed the first few lines of this, like maybe about this much or so. Actually, I also want to change the content type too, right? Because we need it to believe that it's an image file so that we can get past these upload restrictions. This is just one method, right? One method is the magic bytes, right? The first few bytes of a file. That's one technique to get past the file upload restrictions. The second one, change the content type from whatever to an expected content type like image, because it accepts images, right? And the third thing is we want to change this image.jpg to image.php.jpg. That's the third way to get around file upload. And there's more ways as well, but these are the ones I'm going to cover here. These are the most common ones. And if you have to get really, really granular, then just doing some simple Google searching, you could probably find some more common techniques. So basically, I did that. And this is what I ended up with, right? The file name, like I said, jpeg.php. I think I said it the other way around when I was explaining earlier, but no, jpeg.php, because it sees in the file name, oh, okay, it's a .jpeg here, it's a JPEG file. But really, it's a PHP file because it's ending with .php. Now, remember when I said file extensions don't matter to Linux? File extensions matter a lot of times to the actual web server technology. So the PHP web server that's running here, or the whatever it is, whatever Apache web server, or whatever web server it is they're running, to that web server, it actually interprets this, because it ends in a .php, it interprets it as PHP, right? The underlying Linux operating system might not care about file extensions, but the actual web server technology, Apache web server, whatever it happens to be, Apache right here, it's Apache. Apache does care that this is a .php. So by adding this .php at the end, Apache will execute this as PHP code. But yeah, so I have the first few, the magic bytes here to make it look like an image file. And then after this, I have my that malicious PHP, shellcode, or pentest monkey script here with my IP address put in and all of that. So I hit send on this. It gives me a 200 OK. And just doing a little bit more subdirectory recon on the system, we found that there is a /torrent/upload directory where all of the files are kept. So from here, we see, all right, we have our PHP script on this system here. And so then it's as simple as starting up our netcat listener on port 1234, because remember, that's what our script had. So we listen on that, and then all we need to do is, click this to have the server execute our PHP code, and spawn our shell, and now we're www data. So yeah, it's really that simple. Now, this is just one explanation of a PHP-based web shell through file upload. Obviously, there's so many pretty much identical but slightly different situations, like similar but a little bit different scenarios, right? Like maybe it's a Java-based site, maybe it's Python or whatever kind of web server you're dealing with. Maybe it's XML and you're basically doing a file upload on a malicious XML file to get XML external entities injection, right? But these techniques can still apply, right? Find something that works, log those requests and responses, figure out what you're trying to do, and see how you can get past the file upload restrictions to upload something malicious, get your shell, or whatever you're trying to do. So yeah, I hope this video was of help. I know this one went a little bit lengthy, but I wanted to give it its respects, because this is a pretty important thing, pretty valuable thing to know. If you want to get your OSCP certification, this is definitely an essential thing to know how to exploit. So yeah, if you've been enjoying this content so far, be sure to like and subscribe. It definitely helps out with the algorithms and lets me know that you guys are interested in this type of content. And as always, if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments section below, and I will see you guys in the next video.